Big news out of Anthropic here today on the AI Applied podcast. And, you know, my buddy Jaden is not even here to talk about it. Jaden had some stuff going on today. So he's given me the gift of being able to talk about the Anthropic announcement, which I have been super excited about for a lot of reasons. So, first of all, I didn't even expect Anthropic to drop anything new because their model is so good these days, and I think a lot of our attention has been drawn elsewhere. But right out of the bat, like, let's just kind of call this what it is. This is a huge release. This is Claude 3.5 Sonnet. So if you're a little confused by that name, you should be. The naming conventions around these large language models are absolutely terrible. Let's just call it what it is. So where we were with Anthropic was Opus. That was the big one, right? Sort of like Claude 3, Opus, $20 a month. This 3.5 Sonnet is better than Opus, and it tracks along. I'll kind of tell you all about that. But also, guys, it's free and it's faster. So here's what we know about Claude 3 Sonnet. So first of all, it's going to set all these new benchmarks, right? If you've kind of like tracked this on social media, if you see this, you've seen that this has now taken over the top spot from ChatGPT-4o and from even from Google Gemini's top models, everything else. But the new benchmarks are in these things called like graduate level reasoning and undergraduate level knowledge and coding proficiency and things like that. And it, again, but when it starts to outperform, even sort of like by a little bit, the GPT-4o and the Gemini, that is a big deal. But here is the other big deal about that. It is actually faster than it used to be. It's twice the speed, they say, at 1/5 of the cost. I don't understand at all how they're doing this. I mean, I understand that these models are, and these companies like Anthropic are raising a tremendous amount of money, but even with that, how they're managing to do this so cheaply is a just an absolute mystery. It also has this improved language understanding. That's really cool. When people have been testing this thing, it seems to be doing better in grasping nuance and humor and complex instructions and writing, just good quantity of like high quality stuff, like just in a very natural voice. And that, to me, let me just pause for a second here before we even go on with some of the other things. I That's what I used Anthropic's Claude for all the time already, right? I mean, like, I don't know how Jaden uses it. We can ask him when he comes back. But the folks that I know and that know about Claude use Claude all the time for writing. So, excuse me, for me, here's the way that I would use it, for example. So, ChatGPT, I use a ton just for reasoning and all that kind of stuff because I still think ChatGPT is just a really, really powerful model, probably in a way the most powerful model. Again, I'm just pausing. This is a sidebar. We haven't even gotten through everything that Claude is good at yet. But what I use Claude for is just, again, sort of like mimicking my style. So here's a great thing that I do. If you guys like create content, write newsletters, anything like that, this is a great way that I use it all the time, way over ChatGPT, way, way, way. And sort of, I don't even use ChatGPT for this anymore. But one of the things I would do is like, I've written like all these newsletters, right? And I'll kind of like take about like five of them and say, hey, look at this style, the humor, the format, the tone, everything like that. And then look at this rough draft and how can I kind of, let's just clean it up. When am I being like too verbose or anything like that? Now, for me, I am a writer by background. I actually like writing. And so for me, this is something I enjoy. So I don't want this to just replace writing for me. What I wanted to do is things like, first of all, just like, again, when are my paragraphs going on too long? I wanted to kind of keep it in the same format and style. The problem is when we ask ChatGPT to do something like that, it's kind of crazy, right? Because if you ask ChatGPT to be like, and remember to kind of keep it a little humorous or to keep it sort of like casual and relaxed, and said this before, but it turns into like total like surfer dude mode, which I don't love. Again, it is getting better, but what Claude does so unbelievably actually, that it was like one of my two draw dropping moments in the last 18 months. The first was when ChatGPT came out in November 2022, and the second was when I saw Claude 3 and just how well it does it. Give it a try, because the other thing you can do is say something like, hey, take this like crazy rough draft that I've done and make it into like a framework, like a step-by-step process that people can follow, and use the acronym, Connor, to sort of like come up with something that I'll remember better. It's amazing at that, the way it mimics style, even down to sort of like dumb little humor and things like that. So again, that's a very long sidebar, but just to say that I was already using Claude 3 Opus for this, and now this is an even better, cheaper model, which is amazing. But we are not going to stop there. We're going to move back from the sidebar back into everything that Claude does. So it has these advanced coding capabilities, which is phenomenal. I don't code, so I don't really care about that, but folks obviously do out there. Vision is another one that I hadn't really used on Claude very much. I use it all the time on ChatGPT because I think it's outstanding. But Claude's vision is now, I think, just absolutely fantastic. So what I've been doing and the way I've been using Claude of late is been I've been taking I like to take handwritten notes. It helps me. I get like a blank piece of paper, big piece of paper, and sort of like I just kind of like diagram things out. It just kind of helps me think as well as when I'm taking notes in meetings and things like that. But then it's kind of like just existing in this notebook, and then I think, okay, so what's a step-by-step model? Well, no more. Here's what I do. In fairness, I do this with ChatGPT too, but with Claude, you now have that kind of natural language that to me I sort of almost prefer to work in. So I'll take my notes as I usually do, or do my kind of like brainstorming session with myself, and then I'll take a photo of that. And now I'm going to start uploading it to Claude because if Claude is really this good, then all of a sudden, instead of kind of putting it into ChatGPT and then maybe even translating it over to Claude, what I'm going to be able to do is just sort of like do all of that in Claude. So the vision capabilities, I think, are just absolutely outstanding. And again, sort of like it doesn't just have to be text, right? I mean, like with some of these things too, it can also be, uh, you know, I don't know, charts, graphs, things like that. It's one of my favorite things about vision, both on ChatGPT and Claude. Now, there's this other thing called artifacts, which I encourage you to go and look at what people are doing on artifacts. I haven't tried it out enough to know, but this artifacts feature on the new Claude 3.5 is really, really cool and sort of like what it's allowing people to do. Letting people sort of like see and edit, the generated content that Claude is creating, like code or text or designs or whatever, in a kind of a dedicated window just off to the right of it. So you can kind of like for coders, they can do all this like collaborative coding and things like that. Again, that's not stuff that I do very often, but I've seen it. But then again, the other stuff that does is like this design and UX teams and things like that. They can like collaborative, create and refine and iterate and all these kinds of things on these prototypes and visual designs. It's just a very cool space to share that. It also does great, uh, data visualization, things like that. It's great for brainstorming. They also talk about doing uh, what is it, wargaming and scenario planning, which again, I mean, if you're in that world, God bless you, I guess. But here's the other thing about Claude that I find so fascinating. Claude isn't even known necessarily for those things. I would say that it's known for, first of all, just like for originally, Anthropic, as you remember, was known because it had a huge context window, meaning it could accept more words. I think 70,000 initially, before everybody else started catching up and surpassing. But that's what Anthropic was known for. And everybody thought, oh, kind of one hit wonder. Then it was, well, Anthropic is really the safety play. So it's kind of like, if you want it's like buying the Volvo. Like, everybody knows why you're buying a Volvo. You have kids and you want to kind of keep things safe. That's another great point. But otherwise, like the safety thing is getting more and more important. And just even we've seen Jan Leakey over from OpenAI left there very publicly saying that OpenAI was not doing a good job on safety and actually came over to join Anthropic. So now Anthropic is not just this kind of like one hit, sort of like, one feature sort of product, either around safety or around a larger context window. It's now a lot of things in one. It's phenomenal at coding. It's phenomenal at tracking, and mimicking and imitating voice. It's incredible at all these things. So if you're not using Claude, and Claude is just one of these things like, oh yeah, I've heard of it, I'll try it. Guys, there's no excuse anymore. Now you have the best model that's free, sort of mimicking what ChatGPT did with making GPT-4o free for everybody. You have a chance to try this out. The user interface is fantastic. It is not connected to the internet. I think that that's sort of like a new thing that they have to do, and they don't have GPTs, or anything that kind of like resembles GPTs yet. But let's not be complaining about it now. This is a big, big week for Anthropic, putting that out. The safest model in town, the one that was known for context windows, which again, now that's more of a Gemini play. But most importantly, for what so much of us do with large language models is just to write and to create I'm just not sure there's anything better than Claude out on the market, and they're just getting better. Um, One more note is that they are also planning on releasing. So they have a lightweight model, the Haiku, and then the kind of heavier model called Opus Sonnet, which is this one, kind of falls right in the middle. But they are planning to release these in later 2024. So they are really setting the bar very high. It's not as splashy as OpenAI, but I'm telling you, if you're missing out on Anthropic, let this be the last day you missed out, because this is an incredible, incredible tool. Okay, that was Connor solo. Sorry, that was a lot of talking. I know you missed the soothing tones of Jaden's voice, but let me just say thank you for joining me today on the AI Applied podcast. And I know this sounds rote, but really, if you are willing and sort of haven't yet left a rating and a review, I'm telling you guys, like, I check it every day to see if there's like one more, because what we really want to reach is that triple digits. It would be amazing. So if you're willing, just know that I go in there every day. I check. I'm like, maybe today's the day. So thank you for doing it. Thank you for considering. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day.